Digital entrepreneurs, listen up. Welcome to the E-commerce Edge with Phil Dubois, where we explore the cutting edge of e-commerce strategies to help you scale your online business.
Okay, in our last podcast, which by the way you can catch on my LinkedIn page, I talked to Greg Swanson, an online marketing guru. We had a great conversation on the evolution and the challenges of digital marketing. So once you finish listening to this one, check it out on LinkedIn. Today, I'm joined by my co-founder, Kevin Jempel.
Thanks, Phil. Nice to be here.
And by George Grant of Connected Markets.
Hey, Phil. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Connected Markets is an agency that specializes in scaling e-commerce sites. So today we're going to dive a little deeper into the challenges online stores face in the online space. Welcome again, George. My first question is, what's the key challenges your e-commerce clients are grappling with when it comes to their stores' marketing campaigns?
Well, Phil, many, unfortunately, and just to set the record straight, at Connected Markets, we do e-commerce and SaaS businesses, B2B SaaS companies. So we do e-commerce, B2C and B2B, and we also do SaaS businesses in terms of lead generation using AI tools to help businesses sell more and get more leads. So that's kind of what Connected Markets is. In terms of your question, what challenges do e-commerce clients, face right now? There's no question that it's getting more and more challenging out there. And I guess if we look at from the point of view of B2C e-commerce, I think the first issue is, dialing in the product market fit, and making sure that everything is dialed in and zeroed, and they've identified what their top hero products are so that those can be scaled and they can create bundles and get those out, to the marketplace. And then also building, some kind of a repeatable traffic generation system, which would include paid ads, organic search, and social media and email marketing. So dialing in a repeatable engine, and then the big challenge is tracking it all so that you know what's working. So, and I think you've probably seen that too, Phil.
Yeah, for sure. It's a challenge everybody faces. Kevin and I have helped a lot of companies out in trying to get the tracking set up. Maybe Kevin, you'd like to speak to a bit of that?
Well, I think that, the world's changed. It's not a simple pipeline as it was before. It's more of a spider web of how people come to your e-commerce stores. So it's so understanding how they come to your store through the different channels George just mentioned, as well as tracking how they came there, and whether they came there initially from one particular click, or whether there's a multitude of clicks through a variety of different channels. And understanding that process is more important now than it's ever been.
That's for sure, Kevin. It's kind of like understanding it, and it's and it happens. So we see it all the time in terms of our clients kind of scratching their head and going, what should I believe? I got all these different, tracking systems and tools and dashboards and reports, and our agency's telling us one thing, and the advertising platforms are telling us another thing, and we have no clarity in terms of what exactly is going on, and it makes the store owner, I think, crazy. I expect, Phil, you've probably seen that yourself. Yeah, Kevin, you guys.
Well, I was just going to say unexpectedly. Yeah, I mean, the challenge is these channels, Facebook, Google, etc., they don't talk to each other, right? So, and now they all have different, without getting too technical, they all have different attribution models. They have different conversion windows. They have different view-through windows. So, we've seen clients where their Facebook and Google reported conversion value, the dollar value, is higher than the actual store brought in during a particular period of time. So that's the challenge, and what they need is a single source of truth, right? So they know what's really happening.
Yeah, exactly, Kevin. I mean, I see it all the time. Um, and we've even seen it in, in joint client meetings where, they're one of the clients, they're looking at like Facebook reports, and we're seeing, views and conversions and dollars generated from Facebook on the Facebook advertising, and maybe the agency running the Facebook ads has, their own reporting. And then we look in Google Analytics, and Google Analytics has a different number. And we can just drill into Google Analytics for a second and let kind of everybody understand why Google Analytics is not necessarily the best source of truth for an e-commerce store.
Well, certainly for our clients, we always look at Google Analytics and what they're reporting versus what our attribution models are reporting. And, consistently there's about a 10 to 20% fall off between what we're reporting on an accurate basis, and we measure ours against what the Shopify store is. In Shopify's case, we measure what the actual store is showing as revenue against what we're showing as attributed revenue. But if you look at Google Analytics, we're seeing a 10 to 20% shortfall. So they're not even capturing everything.
Yeah, I'm seeing that as well, Phil. I mean, we see the numbers in Google Analytics sometimes being off in terms of, and it's usually under-reporting. It's not over-reporting, so it's usually under-reporting by anywhere from 15 to 20% in terms of both traffic and in terms of conversions and in terms of revenue generated. So we're running, Google Analytics, which is going into a dashboard, kind of system, agency analytics. We look at that, and then we look at, the reports that we're seeing in Ad Amplify, and what I'm definitely seeing all the time is that Google Analytics is under-reporting by 15, just like you say, 15 to 20%. From what the Ad Amplify attribution models are showing. So anyway, I personally find it refreshing and incredibly helpful to be able to look at an Ad Amplify report and kind of go, oh, that really is close to what the number is, because as you say, I go double check it with Shopify, and it's pretty close to spot on in terms of revenue. So, but when you look at the the reporting that you might see in the ad platforms, like in Google Ads ad platforms, in terms of revenue and transactions, that's going to be different than what you see in Google Analytics, and it's going to be different than what you see in terms of Shopify numbers.
Well,
go ahead.
It's crazy.
So as Kevin mentioned, there's many reasons for that. In terms of the ad platforms, if in the user's journey, and let's face it, most journeys to conversion to purchase, most of those journeys are multi-touch. They've made many touch points. They've gone from paid search to organic search to email, whatever. Google Analytics is limited to providing you two models. One is last click. So what was the last click before purchase? So they'll attribute to that. And unless you meet their standards in terms of minimum a number of transactions, the minimal number of purchases, then you cannot access their machine learning models. So for smaller companies, they're pretty much limited to last touch. In our case, we still support the older models, linear, the old linear model where every touch point gets equal credit for a conversion. But we provide our clients with, I think, two fairly important models. First of all, first click. And it's important because what we do with first click is we assign subsequent purchases to that first click model. So the loyalty of the customer who's coming. So if I bought through paid search, our first click model will show my future purchases attributed to paid search. So again, it's a great model in terms of understanding customer loyalty and what each channel, how loyal each channel is in terms of retaining the user. The other important model we use is machine learning. So similar to Google, we use machine learning to get a better picture of what the multi-touch user's path looks like.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because that's another another factor that complicates, the store owner trying to figure out what's going on. Is it, what is it that really influenced the conversion? If I'm advertising on Facebook and somebody sees my ad in Facebook and then they go, oh, I remember I saw that piece of luggage over on Facebook. What was the name of that? Oh, it was FTL. I remember that. So now they Google FTL bags and they come back and they came in from organic search, or they maybe saw an ad, a Google ad, or an ad that's running in, an ad that's running on TikTok. It's really, because it's a multi-path, multifaceted, and unless you have something where you've got an AI monitoring what each of those channels are, it's very hard to understand what you should be scaling and what you shouldn't be scaling from the point of view of a store owner.
Right.
Is that what you're saying, guys?
Yeah,
exactly.
I was going to say that somebody could click on a Facebook ad and within a few days click on a Google ad, and both of those channels may take credit for that conversion if they made a purchase. Something to be aware of. And something else I just wanted to point out, just to mention, is if you're running Google ads and there's different campaigns you can set up. One of them is called Target ROAS, Target Return on Ad Spend. And Google's over-reporting the conversion value that's coming through, and we've seen that by a factor of hundreds of percents. Then your target ROAS is just wasting money if you're targeting a number that's inflated by Google. So, having accurate reporting, and kind of rewinding the clock here a little bit in terms of our conversation, is so important. And that's what we aim to do is provide that kind of single source of truth.
That single source of truth is so important, because if you're not careful, from Google's perspective, when you're running a paid Google Ads campaign, what Google wants you to do is actually use all of their AI automated tools. And we are an AI first agency, so we certainly believe and leverage the power of AI wherever we can. But let me say, guys, be careful, because from Google's perspective, when you're using just the plain AI tools and you're putting, your campaigns on auto dial, it's really hard to, as Kevin's pointing out, it's very hard to understand, are you getting the value out of your advertising dollars? Because it's all automated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically.
Yeah, and again, I think the real power of machine learning is, first of all, it can ingest a tremendous amount of data. The level of data coming at you from your marketing tools is just overwhelming. So we as humans just have a lot of trouble absorbing it all. Machine learning can not only observe it all and determine the patterns and the probability that the user coming from a particular channel or a series of channels will actually make a purchase. So it does that. The other important aspect of machine learning is it can figure out if a channel didn't exist, would that sale still have happened? So it, through a removal process, will play games, if you like, in terms of, well, would this purchase still have happened if the organic search hadn't happened, or if the social media event touchpoint hadn't happened. So machine learning solves a lot of the issues when you start talking about a single source of truth. Machine learning is today's standard in terms of delivering a single source of truth.
Phil, why don't you talk about a little bit about, now that we have all that data, machine learning's learned all that data, what we can do with that data.
Yeah, in particular, Phil, from the point of view of, first-time purchases versus repeat purchases, and the critical importance of, helping stores and store owners that have, a repeat purchase challenge, and kind of like how all of that's better understood with Ad Amplify?
Yeah, one of the things we were frustrated with from our own experience in the marketing world or in the e-commerce world was really understanding. We spent X dollars to get that first-time purchaser. Did they ever come back? And the tools at that time, and still in many cases, are very obscure in terms of what is the customer doing. Not a user coming to the site, but what is your customer doing? They've made their first time purchase. Are they going to come back again? And so when we built our attribution models, we split out the first time purchasers and the subsequent purchasers. So again, you can start to understand what the lifetime value of that customer is. With customer acquisition costs constantly rising under the more and more stores are competing for that relatively small amount of space on, say, Google when you do a Google search. So that cost keeps rising. So how do you, as a store owner, when you're often the cost isn't even covering the profit you make or will give you the profit to pay for that conversion, how do you build a profitable business? And it's all through lifetime value, scaling the lifetime value of your customers. And the tools have to be there for you to understand that. Are they churning? Those that aren't churning, what are they buying after they make their first purchase? Have they made a second, a third, a fourth purchase? What's the cadence of their purchases? Is it every 30 days, every 60 days, every 90 days? And what channel did they come from? If you can understand those three factors, you can start to build campaigns to re-engage those customers based on their behavior on your site. So if they came from social, you're going to deliver a very different message to them than if they came from paid search, which is much more transactional, versus social being much more interested in embedded in that business or that the products that company's offered. Building the loyalty. The paid search customer initially isn't as loyal as the social customer, but from a perspective of recruiting first-time purchasers, you start to see how important paid campaigns are in starting to scale a company at an early stage.
Right,
and that's one of the.
Sorry for interrupting there, Kevin. One of the things I just want to point out that one of the things I'm seeing just very recently, we're starting to see a little bit of softness in B2C e-commerce stores, because maybe it's because of the economy. I mean, definitely after the holiday seasons, you certainly see a downturn, but it's a little bit more than maybe just a regular seasonality that we're starting to see. And so what that means is that you really need to know, as Phil is saying, which channels are working, which are driving the repeat customers back, so that you can allocate your budget and resources appropriately. It's so important, especially when the economy turns down, because the clear thing is you probably would make some more sense to spend a little bit more money on organic search. Because the ROI is so much better on organic search and organic social than it would be on the paid channels. I think you've mentioned that to me before, Phil, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, organic social channels, organic search are certainly the most effective over the long, or can be the most effective over the long term, but it is a long-term process of building up a strong organic search presence. It's all about refining your SEO, refining your keywords. There's a lot of work that goes into it. So people do gravitate to the paid channels because they're a little quicker to deliver results. But long term, a company should be building up their SEO to assist both on the organic side and on the social side.
Yeah, especially to kind of like mitigate issues with with downturns in the economy, if you have your social, organic, and social SEO organic and your social organic social channels performing, and your email marketing channels performing, where you've got a really good list, those will mitigate some of the risk of having to spend more money on paid in a soft economy. That was actually what I was trying to get out.
Yeah,
Kevin, I think we interrupted you. Did you want to?
Well, I just wanted to comment. When Phil talked about how we enable machine learning to consume vast amounts of data and interpret that data and understand how customers are coming to your stores. But what it also allows us to do is predict the future behavior of those customers, and that's an important factor now. So that we can taking that data, we can now understand what different channels will drive what amount of revenue. Let me rewind that. What machine learning allows us to do now is predict future behavior based on future. One more time. What machine learning will allow you to do now is predict future revenue based on the past behavior of those customers. So we can understand now which channels are going to drive more revenue. And so understanding the interactions those clients are having after they've made a purchase, so you know which channels they're engaged with, is really important, because these e-commerce stores, they have limited resources, they have limited marketing dollars, so they need to be really careful where they spend their time and, of course, where they spend their money.
Exactly.
In spite of the economy maybe softening up, we're certainly not seeing any softening up on customer acquisition costs. They continue to rise, and companies are becoming more aggressive to get that spot near the top of the sponsored listings on Google search, for example. So customer acquisition costs keep rising. So if you're in a softer economy, then you better be focused on maximizing the revenue you can generate by bringing your existing customers back again.
Yeah, and actually, one of the new tools in Ad Amplify is the Pages tool, which I think will help everybody better understand which pages are performing the best in terms of conversions and tuning the conversion and conversion optimization, and working for organic search and driving in and bringing the conversions in. So maybe that a subject of another talk, Phil. But it seems that we've got to. When we started out, we talked about what are some of the challenges, and I think we drilled into challenges in B2C e-commerce, and oh my gosh, there's certainly a lot. I think hopefully we've touched on some of them, but in our ongoing series, and we do a couple more of these, I'm sure there'll be a lot more to cover. I'd like to maybe add Pages and kind of how that works as a follow-up session.
Yeah, no, we can certainly do that. It's a very, very interesting product. We're quite excited about it. We're starting to roll it out, and the possibilities there are really to give store owners the visibility into what pages are converting for them or providing conversions for them. So it's a very interesting take, again, using machine learning to do that, to calculate the contribution of revenue made by a page, and also the probability that users coming to that page will actually make a purchase. So exciting stuff, and we can certainly
lots to talk about, and even using Ad Amplify for not only B2C but B2B e-commerce too, because I think there's a lot of opportunities there. Anyway, thank both you guys for being here today. Appreciate it. I think we at least we got the initial some of the initial issues that store owners are facing, and hopefully identified how Ad Amplify can help mitigate some of those issues.
Well, it's great having you, George, and next time we talk, we'll ask you to wave a magic wand and talk about how you can fix one part of the retention puzzle for your clients. But again, another day.
another day. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you,
know.
gentlemen.
I know you've done a great job with the clients you have, and it's interesting to see somebody who's got a foot in both camps, B2C and B2B, and are having some great success with customers in each. So thanks a lot for joining us, George.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you.